Nobody can prevent damages on their own. In every step of the design, installation, protection, and maintenance of underground utilities, there are people working diligently and innovatively to reduce damages. All these people need and deserve to have their stories told, which is what we do here at Planet Underground TV. Planet Underground TV is only made possible with the help of our sponsors. HBK Engineering and C-Scan.
Breaking news right now, an explosion has rocked downtown Sun Prairie. Now, this happened around 7:20 tonight. The Sun Prairie Police Chief says it happened at the intersection of Main Street and Bristol Avenue at the Barr House.
That is a bar, and reports are showing several buildings are leveled. Pictures and video are pouring into our newsroom. Police are calling this an extremely active and fluid situation. About to open up the emergency operations system there. They have called for mutual aid as well from agencies around that area to help out. And our Amy Reed is live on the scene. Amy, what can you tell us?
Right now, I'm standing on Main and Union, and actually a firefighter just came by, and he's asking people to move a little further back. I'm going to step out of the way, let the photographer show. You can see the smoke coming up. We're looking down the road right now at Bristol Street. I don't know if you just heard that. There was another explosion. I don't know what that was right now. I can't speak to what that was, but you can still see a lot of smoke. This has actually gotten darker and thicker since we've gotten here. And police and firefighters, they're telling us to move. And right now, some people are trying to evacuate in a home right now. They're bringing up people in wheelchairs with walkers, trying to get people out because this entire street is evacuated.
My name is Mike Perlak, and I'm the founder of Planet Underground. I've been analyzing digging accidents for a number of years. On July 10th, 2018, an explosion occurred in downtown Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. On that night, 11 people were injured and 1 person died as a result of the explosions caused by leaking natural gas. The leaking natural gas was a result of a drilling accident. A contractor working for a major telecom company was installing conduit at the time of the accident. The gas line that the drill head crossed was not exposed. This was a preventable digging accident. Sun Prairie, Wisconsin suffered a great deal of physical damage and emotional damage due to this incident. In this episode, we can offer a glimpse into the root cause of this explosion, but our main emphasis is upon the impact of the citizens of Sun Prairie. We want you to hear the people's story, the people who live and work in Sun Prairie. We want you to hear how this accident impacted their lives and how it erased some of the history of Sun Prairie. There is a tremendous human cost in this accident, and that's what we have to keep in mind. People's lives can be changed forever when bad digging accidents occur.
I grew up in Sun Prairie, born and raised here. My parents grew up in town here, their parents, we go way back. I just found out that my great-great-grandfather on my mom's side was a volunteer fireman when he was the Bank of Sun Prairie. My grandpa on my dad's side was a volunteer fireman and a volunteer policeman back in the 1920s, 1930s. So the fact that the firemen were so affected by this and the first responders, that just broke my heart. Our original city hall here, I'm thankful it's still standing, that we don't have to lose it, but just the fear of the history, I mean, it's terrible. Don't get me wrong, that it's terrible, the lives that have been affected by this explosion, but the long-term effect of the history of this town can never be brought back.
Yeah, I pretty much came down to the kids about 2 days after just to show them, because they grew up there. You know, I've been in business 14 years. Ella's 9, my son Eli's 6. So they pretty much walk around the restaurant like they own the place, because they've grown up there. So I had to kind of take them down and show them the remnants, and you know, let them know that we'll be back up and running as soon as possible, and we'll have a new home for the glass nickel soon. But just, you know, needed it to be a reality for them too, because it's been a difficult thing for everyone.
I've lived in Sun Prairie for about 5 years. We just moved in over here about 1.5 years ago, and because I started working at Glass Nickel, so figured we'll live right across the street. All the windows in it are gone, glass everywhere. I've only been in there twice since it happened, for about 20 minutes.
I've lived in Sun Prairie for 60 years, and I've cleaned a professional building for over 30 years. The eye doctor was there, Ball & Eye Care was in there, there's a haircut place, a beauty parlor, and a barber shop I cleaned. And I cleaned all of the apartments upstairs. But 2.5 days we were all evacuated on that block. So it's nice to be back home again.
There was where the Barr House was, then there was a little tiny retail place. It used to be a cafe. We went there, oh my gosh, from little tiny on. They had the best milkshakes, I remember, and stuff. That's completely gone now. There's nothing left of it. The professional building that exploded, that was the 3rd building down from the Barr House. That used to be a movie theater. My grandpa was a barber further down Main Street there, and during World War II, he used to do metal collection for the war effort and everything, and bring in metal, and you got into the movie free. For kids, he would always have Saturday morning matinees during the Depression, so that kids had something to do. So all that history is gone.
3 members of our Planet Underground team traveled to Sun Prairie after the explosion. We looked for people who'd be willing to share their story with us. And boy, did they ever share their stories. The reason these people wanted to be on camera with us was so that their story may prevent this sort of incident from happening in other cities. Right now, 5G internet deployment is happening everywhere. It's going to result in a lot of digging, a lot of trenchless installation of conduit and fiber lines. This incident could literally occur anywhere in the country. On the day of the accident, work was continuing on installing conduits to run fiber throughout the city of Sun Prairie. The drill rig was positioned right across the street from the volunteer fire department. The drill went down the sidewalk, paralleling the gas main. Moving southward underground, the drill head passed an unmarked and unexposed 2-inch gas main. As the bore pulled back with the conduit, the 2-inch main was struck, resulting in a leak. That leaking gas got into several buildings, causing the explosion.
The day it happened, just a quiet day at home. Didn't know anything. I live about 1.5 miles from this area, but I heard the explosion and our house shook, that it sounded and felt like a car came into the side of our garage, is basically what it felt like.
The contractors were out there, and about 9:15 in the morning woke me up with their drilling. Noticed they were all out in front of our store. Came out, went to work at about 3:30, got into work. About 6 o'clock, 6:15, we started smelling something funny. We noticed it was gas. So she started evacuating people, then I got the rest of the people out. Noticed our head count was wrong, had to go back in. My dishwasher was still in the dish room doing dishes. So we all got outside. We're all sitting outside. About 20, 30 minutes later, boom. Whole street smelled like gas. Everything smelled like gas. The explosion was so intense that it was knocking people down. I was actually shielded by a squad car, so I didn't get knocked down.
Well, I mean, a friend was bringing me home from work. We went through Bristol and Main, and all at once there was a stinky, real bad smell, and you see the smoke come up out of the ground. It was a gas leak. And when I got home, I turned the scanner on. They said, gas leak, Main and Bristol. And 30 minutes later, boom. Oh, God, it sounded like the whole ground was exploding. It was so bad. It was terrible. The whole town shook. And then all we seen was flames and smoke.
Felt the shock wave and then the heat wave right afterwards. Yeah, it was a powerful explosion.
I work at Marco's Pizza here in Sun Prairie, and I was the shift lead on duty that night. So I was in charge. And one of my drivers came back from a delivery, and they were like, yeah, like half of Main Street is blocked off, like can't drive on it at all. And we didn't think anything of it. And I'm outside on my spoke brake, and like just this big, just boom, and just like the ground shook, and like the trees around me shook. And I just kind of was standing there. I was like, oh, wow, what was that? So I went back in the store, and like stacks of boxes that were pre-folded fell onto the ground, and like I was looking at everyone, I was like, what just happened? And they were like, I don't know. And then that's when the never-ending stream of fire trucks and ambulances just constantly coming in and out.
Essentially what happened, so I received a call from our general manager that it smelled like gas in the building. So I ran back to the building to see what was going on, walked in the building and smelled gas. Was just about to call the fire department when the fire department was already rolling up in front of the building. And as I walked out the door to ask what was up, they asked if we could smell gas in the building. I said yes, and they ordered us to get everybody out. It was basically 15 minutes, 10 minutes before the explosion, probably 10 minutes. So at that point, we evacuated the restaurant, went through, turned off the ovens. I went upstairs and helped get our tenants out of the building, and came back to the restaurant one last time to make sure everything was off. Walked out the front door, and actually I'm standing right where I'm standing right now on this corner. I looked across the street, and my staff was standing on the street with our customers, and I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be an inconvenience. We'll be back in 15 minutes. Fire drill like you're in high school. What a pain in the ass. Well, I looked to the left, which is this way, and obviously I could see the Barr House from here. And I looked to the left, saw the fire truck sitting here, and looked at the Barr House, and as I looked at the Barr House, it exploded. What I remember about the blast more than anything else is I don't really remember how loud it was. What I remember is I remember seeing the building vaporize, and I remember seeing the air shimmer as the shockwave came towards me, and I felt it more than heard it. Like even to this day, I don't remember my ears ringing afterwards. I don't remember any of that. I remember debris flying over my head and hitting this building, came over the roof of our building, and rained down on the people that were on the sidewalk. It was a very strange experience to not remember hearing the actual explosion, but just the visual aspect and the concussion.
Explosion, I think it was like 7 p.m. that it happened, and it's a good thing that was after rush hour. Just missed it because it would have been a lot busier. This is Main Street. This is the main strip of Sun Prairie. It runs the entire length. It's the street you use if you need to get anywhere. So if it happened during rush hour, that would have been a big problem. And thank goodness to the first responders that were able to block off the area because they knew it was coming. It's a shame that they couldn't stop the explosion. But I mean, so many lives were saved because of the first responders, it being so close to rush hour.
So a couple days later, I was getting interviewed by Channel 3. The fire chief was there, and after the interview was over, he just said, "Do you remember me? I'm the one that evacuated your building." I'm like, "Absolutely." And he goes, "I just want to let you know, that night, after evacuating your building, the gas level in the sewer in front of your building was registering at about 100%. And I'm like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "No, because it was 100% and there was no oxygen, it's not going to explode." So we're kind of glad it was that high of a concentration. So,
as Patrick said, there was a lot of gas under and in his restaurant. Natural gas burns in a mixture with air of approximately 5% on the low side and 15% on the high side. Gas and air in that mixture will burn when it meets up with an ignition source that is at least 1163 degrees. If there's too much gas, more than 15%, it can't be ignited. If there's less than 5% gas in air, too lean, it can't be ignited. But what we run into in accidents like this is that sometimes a building is full of gas. There's too much gas for it to ignite. But when doors and windows are opened, that can bring the level of gas down to just under 15%, where it is explosive. The first responders focused on the number one priority in incidents like that, and that's making people safe. Unfortunately, there was nothing the emergency responders could do to save the buildings. And even worse, one of the emergency responders passed away during evacuation of people from a restaurant that he and his family owned.
So at that point, we were sent back to rally at the Sun Prairie High School, which is where the command post was. We opted to go somewhere else instead and wait for further instructions, see when we can get vehicles or get back in the building. And then that night it turned out that we're not getting back in the building at all. So I ended up getting to the high school at some point, and the city's business development director ended up giving me a ride back to Monona, where my house is. And it was at that point on the ride home, like we heard a rumor that someone was injured. And at that point on the ride home, the business development director told me that it was Cory that died on the scene, pretty much. So, Cory, I knew Cory. Obviously, his bar is a couple doors down from us. So I knew him as a member of the Business Improvement District. He'd be at the meetings and, knew him professionally as well. So, it was kind of a somber ride home, thinking about that incident, the loss of Cory, his daughters, and also how much worse this could have been if the fire department didn't evacuate everyone in time.
Members and emergency responders from all over the state and beyond are remembering Barr and honoring his life. News 3's Madeline O'Neill has more from Sun Prairie.
People have been coming together following Tuesday's tragedy online through fundraisers and hashtag Sun Prairie Strong. But today's memorial services were a chance for people to come together in person. And there's quite a showing.
We've been through hell.
After days of the Sun Prairie community showing strength.
I know for us as a family, this has been surreal.
Saturday is a day to stop and mourn.
Cory's passing has definitely cut us all to the core.
Grieving for a man who has impacted so many lives.
You have never met a more devoted father, husband, than Cory Barr.
Touching even those who have never met him.
We came here to pay respect.
Some bringing gifts for the family.
I stay to you. Do not be afraid.
Others showing the sorrow on their hearts.
All of Wisconsin's here, so it's a group thing. All become family real quick.
All honoring a man who placed others above himself.
Cory was the funniest, greatest, and most loyal friend I'll ever know.
Everybody loved him.
Now in this send-off, others are doing for Barr what he was trained to do for them.
In 2016, he came to Milwaukee. We put on a 3-day honor guard class on how to actually do all of this should somebody die in the line of duty.
Cory, you are going home.
On a day when hearts are heavy, such a showing of support is heartwarming.
I feel sad, I guess, but hopeful that it's such a tragedy, but there's so many helpers out there and so many people doing so much for everybody that it just makes you feel good too.
We're gonna do what Cory wants. Today we cry, tomorrow we get up and we move on. We take back our fire department, we take back everything.
A fire department trying to return to normal.
This is the final call for Sun Prairie Fire Captain Cory Barr.
As one of their own finishes his duty.
Your love and passion for the fire service will truly be missed by all who knew and loved you.
Reporting in Sun Prairie.
Captain Barr, this is your final call.
I saw somewhere that Sun Prairie was one of the fastest growing cities in the Midwest. So, we're going to have a lot of excavation, a lot of digging, a lot of tearing down, building up. We're going to have that all the time. And it's definitely something I need to worry about. I recently moved out and got my own apartment, so it's something I'm worried about. I need to look into like renter's insurance or something like that. And it's something you don't think of until it happens. And when that happens, it's already too late. Especially if you're caught in it. It's just, and it's definitely awoken, a lot of people here in town, a lot of awareness, and a lot of banding together, hey, this is a problem we need to fix, and hopefully it gets fixed,
Since the explosion, There's been quite a few more scares of gas line breaks and people smelling gas and everything. There's probably been 3, maybe 4 evacuations since, so everyone is on heightened awareness. Nobody wants to go through this again. Just the fear of it happening.
Well, there's so much going on. I see so many things that's been going on. There have been so many repair work, doing this and doing that. It still scares you a little bit because you think something else could happen, but you know, it's scary. And I think about it all the time. Let's not have no more. We've had enough explosions. That was terrible to take all those buildings.
Anytime I see it, I don't even want them doing it anymore. Like, oh great, here comes another bad contractor that's gonna screw something up.
In Wisconsin, we have something called Diggers Hotline, and they're pretty much everywhere. The utility companies do like public service announcements from them all the time. You know, in broadcast media, there's always public announcements, radio even, you hear it all the time. But as a homeowner, you don't necessarily think about it. So, but also one thing that I do think about a lot since this occurred is, you know, the whole way this occurred with a company that is doing a fiber project, subcontracts to another company to do the digging, and then that company decides to subcontract to another company to actually do the digging. And then that makes you start thinking like maybe this system needs to be looked at a little bit more, where the final company that's doing the digging wasn't licensed in the state of Wisconsin, and you know, who's working for it? There is a permitting process, right? But because of the way this worked with all the subcontractors, the company that actually pulled the permits wasn't the company that's actually doing the work, you know? So, and then the city doesn't know any information about that company. So I think it should be changed for sure, you know? I think it should be the person that's on site doing the work. That company should be responsible for pulling a permit as well, you know? So there is better oversight. Really, when we're doing something as serious and significant as working around explosive natural gas lines, I think that some better scrutiny is probably in order. But from an industry perspective too, something else I learned during this process, one of the reasons it took so long for us to get gas service restored is because there's a dearth of crews willing to do that work. So the industry itself apparently is, which I wasn't aware of, the industry itself has such a shortage of workers that they're relying on subcontractor after subcontractor to do some of this work as opposed to, you know, maybe having it be a little bit more regulated. So they're experiencing some serious labor issues. You know.
A search warrant filed in Dane County Circuit Court on July 27th and unsealed on October 17th contained several new pieces of information previously unknown to the public. Yet this document is not a substitute for a complete and final investigation. The struck 2-inch gas main teed into the 4-inch gas main, which the driller was paralleling in a southward direction. The 2-inch main was struck less than 4 feet from its tee with the 4-inch main. The 2-inch main traveled in an eastward direction. What the search warrant referred to as tee markings were placed for this 2-inch main, but they were located 25 foot north of where the pipe was situated. Within the warrant, the City of Sun Prairie Engineering Department told investigators that this T marking was placed in a similar location to the city's traffic light cables. It is unclear from the warrant whether traffic signal cables were located before the accident. It is also unclear if the driller worked to expose the pipe where it was mismarked. On any directional drilling job, if gas is not found where it is marked, the job must stop until the gas is accounted for. It's our hope that the story of Sun Prairie can serve as a stark reminder of some of the deficiencies that we deal with in today's damage prevention system.
The community response has been amazing. There's been a lot of people who have been, you know, coming forward and, you know, offering condolences and offering to help out in any way they can. I know the community's raised a bunch of money for the Barr family, and I think the last I heard, there's a disaster relief fund that the community has raised over $400,000 for. So yeah, it's been amazing. All different local businesses have stepped up and had donation days, and there's been a ton of fundraisers, and it's been amazing seeing how this tragedy has brought the community together, and just it's been amazing watching the outpouring of support and watching people be there for each other and help each other out.
Just Sun Prairie stuck up, and Sun Prairie's so strong to keep everybody in the county has been sticking up for, you know, and not only Sun Prairie, the only distance, everybody's sticking up for Sun Prairie to help them out, do things for them, bring things into all the firemen, all the EMS. They brought so much food into them when they were having all these problems. They were very supportive. They were so supportive of Cody when, you know, when him gets, you know, happened to him. It's just so sad somebody had to die for it, you know. But everybody sticks together. Everybody's been sticking together just super. It's a strong city now. It has to be a strong city.
I remember that the night of, I posted Sun Prairie, hashtag Sun Prairie Strong, after kind of like mentioning to our customers what happened on social media. The next morning, I saw Sun Prairie Strong like everywhere, and I think just everybody had the same idea at the same time. It's not like I'm going to take credit for Sun Prairie Strong. But in the day or two afterwards, I had a bunch of our people that are associated with us reach out and offer us help and assistance in any way they could.
Seeing how everybody came together under the hashtag Sun Prairie Strong has been so good to see that, because Sun Prairie has experienced a lot of growing pains. With getting as large as we are, you lose a lot of that small town value, and this has brought everybody back to that small town value of helping each other.
This is really important to me, actually, because it made me realize that this community is one of the best communities I've ever lived in. I love this. These guys are the ones helping us out, the ones that set this all up, so that we can still afford to live until this is done.
What happened in Sun Prairie can't be reversed. It's truly inspiring to hear the people talk about the town coming together, Sun Prairie Strong, and they're going to need it because it's going to take a while to get the town back on its feet. But as an industry, we ask, what can be done to fix these type of accidents? And unfortunately, the answer's not clear. There are lots of challenges ahead, given all the construction, just like what's going on in Sun Prairie. Are there other Sun Prairies in our future? Unfortunately, the answer is probably yes. Until the talk about how to prevent damages is met with similar action, we're going to struggle in situations where there's a lot of construction and a lot of desire to get the construction done quick. We can only hope that this construction doesn't leave a trail of bodies as a result.